Strictly speaking, a serial killer is someone who murders at least two people in separate events that occur at different times. While any legal code does not formalize serial murder, the crimes of serial killers have often been seized on by the media and the public consciousness, especially in cases where there are many victims of the murders are carried out in gruesome fashion. In addition, some killers indulged in cannibalism, necrophilia, sexual assault, and even severed their victims' bodies. So in this video, we are going to tell you about the top 10 most grueling murders. The video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick till the end. Before starting the video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. 10. Rodney Alcala. Rodney's first known victim was an 8-year-old girl whom he attacked in 1968. Officers found the raped and strangled girl holding on to life along with photos of other children. Rodney had already gone on the run, though he was later arrested and sentenced to prison. After being released from his first prison sentence, Rodney killed 4 more women, the youngest just 12 years old. He was later convicted of 1 murder and sentenced to death in California. However, given the number of photos recovered from a rented storage locker, it's believed that he's responsible for many more brutalities. In March of 2019, California governor announced a moratorium on capital punishment in the state, effectively granting Rodney, along with more than 700 other death row inmates, a stay of execution. 9. Robert Berdella, the Butcher of Kansas. In 1980, Robert Berdella tortured and killed 6 men, chopped their bodies into small pieces, and stuffed their remains into dog food bags. He also kept detailed notes on each of his victims, which later helped investigators prove their murders. Robert almost got away with it all. Had it not been for his 7th would-be victim, 22-year-old Christopher Bryson, who managed to escape from the 2nd floor of Robert's home, he may not have been caught. Robert had initially been charged with sexual assault, but after police obtained a search warrant, they found human remains and other wallets of other victims. In 1992, he was sentenced to life imprisonment and died of a heart attack in jail. 8. Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer. Dennis Rader, known as the BTK Killer, used to break into his victims' homes in and around Sedgwick County, Kansas, and stalk them before making his move. He would then bind, torture, and kill them. He killed 10 people between 1974 and 1991, but wasn't arrested until 2005. Once arrested, police searched Dennis's home and found photos of Dennis with his victims. Dennis was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder and is now serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. 7. Jerry Brudos. In January 1968, women in Portland were terrorized by Jerry Brudos, a man who was alleged to have a foot fetish, and 4 vanished completely. About a year later, a fisherman found the remains of a 22-year-old woman, Linda Saley, who had vanished the year before. Police ended up finding 4 more bodies and eventually tracked them all back to Jerry. He confessed to the murders in gory detail to the police after keeping the body of his first victim for several months. In order to dress her up, he eventually dumped the target in the river, but not before sawing off a foot to use for trying on heels and carrying photos of them. 6. Herb Baumeister, a serial killer who stashed bodies in his backyard. In 1980 and 1990, Herbert Baumeister would lure gay men back to his pool house, then strangle them and dump them in the woods behind his home. Baumeister had his pool area decorated with mannequins that were set up to seem like they were having a pool party. Baumeister's son, Eric, was stumbled upon the remains of one victim while he was playing in the backyard. Once Baumeister realized the police were onto him, he fled to Ontario, Canada, and shot himself in the head at Pinery Provincial Park. In his suicide note, he blamed his failing marriage and business as the reason for his suicide and never confessed to any of the murders. Police estimate that he killed somewhere between 10 to 20 people. 5. Catherine Knight, who tried to feed her husband to his children. In 2000, an Australian woman, Catherine Knight, stabbed John Prince, her partner, to death 37 times. Catherine then skinned him, decapitated his head, and cooked up part of his body. She set her dining room table for two and served the cooked meat with side vegetables and baked potatoes. She placed handwritten notes next to each table setting with the names of John's children on them. She was attempting to serve them their father for dinner. When police finally reached at the house, they found Knight in a comatose state with pills spilt out on the floor. They also found John's head boiling in a pot of soup on the stove. Knight was the first woman to be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. She is currently serving her sentence in Silverwater Correctional Complex in New South Wales, Australia. 4. Issei Sagawa, the Japanese cannibal who still walks free. The famous Japanese cannibal is notorious in his country. He grew up in a wealthy family but always had the urge for human flesh. At 23, Issei was arrested for attempted rape. Issei entered the apartment of a tall German woman living in Tokyo and attacked her. Police didn't realize he was actually attempting to eat her, even though he bit off a piece of her flesh. At 32, Sagawa went to France. It was there that he befriended a classmate, a 25-year-old Dutch woman named Renée Harteveld. The friendship proved deadly for Harteveld as one night Sagawa invited her over under the guise of working on a poetry assignment but ended up shooting and eating various parts of her body over a 2-day span. He was held in police custody for 2 years before being deemed legally insane and deported back to Japan. However, he eventually gained prominence in Japan and became a mini celebrity there, where he could not be lawfully jailed, as he has remained free to this day. 3. Dennis Nilsen, who murdered young men and kept their bodies. Dennis Nilsen terrorized London from 1970 to 1980, killing 15 men. Nilsen would pick up young men at bars and take them back to his house. There, he'd strangle or drown them. Then, according to the International Business Times, he'd bathe and dress the bodies once dead. He admitted to the police that he kept the bodies for extended periods of time before disposing of them, so that he could have sex with them and talk to them. He is currently serving a life sentence at the HMP Full Sutton Prison of Yorkshire, England. He was only apprehended because the leftover parts of the human he had tried to flush away were stuck in the drain outside his home. 2. Acid bath murderer John George Hay. John George Hay was a British serial murderer active in 1940. According to Forensic magazine, John used to dispose of his victims' bodies by burning them in sulfuric acid. John was convinced he was getting away with murder, literally because he mistakenly thought that without a body, there was no crime. His arrogance is what ultimately got him caught when he led police to the remains of his sixth and final victim, 69-year-old Olive Duran Deacon. While on trial, John pleaded insanity and insisted to the court that he drank the blood of his victims. He was found guilty in 1949. He hanged a few months later. 1. Charles Manson. A group of Charles' most gruesome murders took place in August 1969. On the night of August 8, directed by Manson, some of his family members invaded a home in the northern hills of Los Angeles. Over the course of the night and into the next morning, they killed 5 people, including Abigail Folger, director Roman Polanski's wife, and Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, heir to the Folger coffee fortune. The next night, Manson family members continued their spree, murdering supermarket executive Rosemary and his husband, Lino LaBianca. Charles was indicted and convicted along with the family members who'd carried out the murders at his behest. Charles was sentenced to death. However, he was never executed. Instead, he lived the rest of his life in prison and passed away in 2017 of a heart attack. What do you think about these murders? Let us know your opinion in the comment section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we'll be back soon with another video.